Thank you for joining us for our Supercharged September video series. My name is Lisa Drake. I'm Assistant Director of Fleet Electrification at Merchants Fleet. And I am supercharged to be joined up with Jesse Lohr today, owner of Greenwave Electric Vehicles in Northampton, New Hampshire. And Jesse's going to share his insights on the EV market and what retail customers are saying about going electric. So welcome to our Supercharged series, Jesse. And if you could, introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa. Really excited to have you here today on, take you into Greenwave. Greenwave Electric Vehicles is New Hampshire's first EV dealership. We opened up our doors in February of 2023. We provide all makes and models, and we're on a mission to help save the planet with awesome and affordable cars. So we do focus on cars in the under $40,000 category, and, we provide full service to our clients, including financing and home charging and a wide selection of high quality vehicles at awesome prices. And really a big part of what we do is educate folks. I originally came from the wheelchair van business where I served people with disabilities for many years, and was excited to move into this space and start this business after I bought my first Mustang Mach-E back in 2021 and loved it and loved what I was doing for the planet in the process. We're in our 18th month right now, and no looking back. So glad to be on with you, and thank you for all that you're doing and Merchants is doing to promote fleet electrification and reducing the impacts of climate change on the commercial side.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Love talking with you. I have so many questions for you. I mean, as you know, this is my day-to-day work is working with fleets and transitioning to EVs. And you're coming at it from a different angle with consumers, but there's so much overlap. So I'm excited to hear more about what you're seeing. And I love that your personal passion kind of drove you into this business opportunity. Someone would say that you're a really brave soul opening, this whole new kind of business, a pre-owned EV dealership, and especially in a state in New Hampshire, which sadly has been a bit slow to adopt them overall. So really would love to hear more about the response from consumers since you've opened and how you're seeing demand change over time since you've been open.
Yeah, it's a great question. So about 1%, a little less than 1% of EVs in New Hampshire, of cars in New Hampshire are EVs. So there is, a lot of room for growth, a lot of opportunity there. I mean, in 2021, I started my master's program in sustainability, and I went from being concerned about climate change to terrified about what's really happening with climate change after, reading all the scientific documentation about it. And at the same time, I bought my first electric vehicle because I was ready to go all in with that. And I think that's, even to this day, a lot of consumers, they want to do something about climate change. About half of people in America say in surveys that their next car will be an electric vehicle, but there are a lot of barriers to that, a lot of difficulties in figuring out, how's the car gonna fit my lifestyle? Is the range gonna work for me? What's maintenance like? There are all these questions, and sure, you can read the internet, and the internet, as you know, will tell you just about anything, but getting real information from EV owners and EV specialists is something that people are really craving. And one of the things we've seen a lot with consumers is, they go to traditional automotive dealerships who might have one or two models on their lots, and they may or may not know so much about the vehicle itself, let alone charging, let alone environmental impact. And so we really provide a space for people to come and learn in a relaxed, informative environment, try out all the different makes and models that fit their budget, and make a choice. And we started last year, where it was a very tumultuous year in the EV space, as mostly because of fluctuating car values and production ramp ups and production declines and all these kind of moving factors. So it was a really tough year for us last year, but it's been a steady increase of people calling us and saying they're ready to start talking about making the switch. They just want to learn some more and they want to figure out which car is right for them. So we've continued to see growth, but also people still have real questions about, is this going to work for me? And so we focus on helping them understand how they can make it work for their life.
Yeah, that's really important. In working with fleets, we also do a lot of education and getting people to better understand, what these EV models, what their options are and how they work, and the charging solutions really critical. So, in your experience, how knowledgeable are your consumers when they walk in about EVs? And, tell us a little bit more about how you work with them in educating potential buyers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when people come into Greenwave, we first sit down on one of these kind of comfortable couches that you see back here, and you can even see some TVs that we've got to educate them. Some people have done a ton of research. Some about 10% already own one electric vehicle or plug-in hybrid. But a lot of people are just really, they still don't completely understand. So, we sit down and we say, okay, so what are your questions about EV ownership? And one of the first questions is always, how am I going to charge this thing? And so we have a question about, an education about charging, right? And we show them PlugShare, which is one of those websites that you can see all the available chargers out there. We tell them about the 3 levels of charging, 1, 2, and DC fast charging and the rates of that. But really what we have a lot of conversations about is, what's your lifestyle? Where are you driving every day? Right? Because a lot of people think, like, I need a 300-mile range vehicle. I need a 500-mile range vehicle. And we ask them, so what's your longest day? What's your longest day that you drive? And most people who even drive a lot, they drive 100 to 150 miles in a day, right? And so with that, and the fact that most of our models that we carry have over 200 or 250 miles of range, they're all of a sudden reframing how they're thinking about EV lifestyle, right? We also ask them about their home electrical situation. We can provide home charger installs with a licensed electrician and the box and everything. But what we're most focused on is just helping them understand, do they have the right electrical service to do it? How far away is their charging location from their panel? What does that kind of look like in terms of a setup, and what's the approximate cost going to be? So we kind of take them through that. We show them the charging network. We talk to them about their home. We talk about their longest day, and they come out of that with an entirely new understanding. It's a paradigm shift, right? From like, oh, I have to go to the gas station every week. Now I have to go to a charging station every week. It's like, no, I come home and I plug in and I never have to worry about it again. Right? So we take people through that all the time, and we get this aha moment, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, not many people say I miss going to the gas station. But it is exactly that, a paradigm shift. And we work with a lot of fleets where drivers take their vehicles home at night. And so again, the paradigm shift and all these things you need to think about how it fits into their day and their life are really important, but can be such an advantage really to their work day to leave their home every morning fully charged, ready to go.
Yes, exactly. And longer trips too. We do some longer trip planning with folks. Some people go visit family members regularly, so we show them a better route planner, and we talk about that. And we talk about the fact that driving an EV, it's not like you want to wait until you're almost empty and then try to find a charger, right? There's a different kind of strategy for working well on that. So yeah, it's very interesting conversations.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's such a great added service, but really necessary to support your customers. What would you say drives them into your showroom more often? Is it their environmental concerns and desires, or is it economic factors?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's also one of the first questions that we ask them, just so we can focus the conversation correctly. It's like, why are you thinking about going EV? And really, I would say about 40% of people say, oh, it's the environment. I want to reduce my carbon impact. I'm driving a Prius, and I realize I could still do better in terms of my carbon footprint, right? And then, there's another 40% that it's to save money. I will tell you, whenever anybody gets home free charging at their job, they get a new job and they get free charging at their job. Their second stop is at Greenwave, because then they're like, I don't have to pay for gas, right? So it's my commute car, right? I want to save money on gas. The other 20% have a need for speed. They're looking for a fast car, and we get a significant portion of people coming in here just looking for the fastest, best performing, most technologically forward automobiles that human beings have ever made, and those all happen to be electric vehicles.
That's fascinating that you've seen that as such a driver. We don't, certainly that we understand the capabilities of the EVs, but that's not a conversation we have with fleets very often. So that's super interesting insight. But we really say, like, there's nothing like getting butts in seats, like to get people to experience that and to feel that power that these EVs have. It's really impactful for folks who haven't been behind the wheel before of an EV.
Right, and that actually kind of speaks to what we count as success here. We're not your traditional automotive retailer, right? Most automotive retailers, dealerships, they count success in how many cars they sell, right? We don't count our success when a client visits us and whether or not we sell a car. We count it in three things, right? One, do they get answers to their questions about EV ownership, charging, maintenance, battery life, etc. Two, do they have a chance to experience, do they get their butt in one of these seats, right? Do they have a chance to experience how awesome an EV is? Because most EV owners will tell you that even if they went EV because of the environmental impact or the money savings, they're never going back because it's just a more fun car to drive, right? And then the third thing of success is, do we get them a proposal that shows them how to make that switch and how much that switch is going to reduce their cost of ownership and reduce their carbon footprint. And if we do those three things, then we're living our mission here. And most people do end up buying from Greenwave when they come in here, but even if they don't, and if they buy an EV somewhere else, then it's mission positive for us.
Yeah, that's great. That's great perspective. I'm wondering, like, I'm thinking about we talked about, charging solutions at home, take-home fleets. We really encourage our clients, whether it's more of a workplace-oriented charging solution or a home charging solution, really encourage our clients to own their own charging solutions and not be reliant on public charging infrastructure. That said, there's a role for public charging infrastructure for sure that is necessary, and it has to support road trips and folks who don't have a charger at home yet, that perhaps that there's a lot of reasons why we need public infrastructure. What's your view on the current state of EV charging infrastructure in our region? And is there really enough charging stations to support the growing number of EVs that are on the road?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's in New Hampshire, it's mediocre and getting better. In Maine and Massachusetts are two other biggest markets that we serve. It's good and getting better, right? The bipartisan infrastructure law from 2021, all that money of $5 billion nationwide is going into the ground now and through the end of 2025, which took a long time, but that's going to be improving it. In terms of public fast charging in New Hampshire, it's good, but it could be better, right? So there are a lot of chargers around. Right here on Route 1 on the seacoast, we have 3 fast chargers within a couple miles of us, so that helps. And destination chargers or level 2 public chargers are much more plentiful, but I think that they need to be put in more. I mean, I've been involved in some conversations at the DOT level, at the state level, at the New Hampshire Planning Commission level, and I think that really there's no reason we can't have more level 2 chargers everywhere, right? A lot of level 2 chargers we can put in, including the box and the electrician and the permits and everything, for under $2,000, right? And so the fact that more small businesses don't have these to attract people to shop at their store or dine at their restaurant, or spend time walking on the trails or whatever, right, is kind of crazy to me, because it's a relatively small investment to draw people in. I think one of the bigger issues is that the planning boards, the local planning boards, have sometimes been resistant to adding these public charging infrastructure pieces. I know we've run into that definitely in our town. It's been difficult to kind of get approval for the charging because so many people, it's not on their radar. They don't want to get an EV. They think it's going to be disruptive. They think it's going to be expensive. They think it's going to be unsafe, and so they're resistant to it, right? But I think that is changing, and the more people who buy EVs and put them into their community, generate more of that demand. Right, it grows the use case. When more people see more electric vehicles on the road, they say, okay, we need more chargers. So at the apartment buildings in our communities, at the condos in our communities, those are the organizations that I think really need support and need legislative support and funding support to make that happen. Because the truth is this: people who live in apartments who want EVs but can't get them because they can't get home charging, they're paying more money than they have to for their transportation. And economically, it's not good for families in New Hampshire. Families in New Hampshire could save hundreds of dollars a month that they could put back into their family budgets if they had reliable charging at their apartments. And the fact that we're not is taking money out of their pockets and putting it into the pockets of big oil. So I think that that's a real opportunity for us to look at in our state.
Yeah, that's great. Well, grateful for your voice in that conversation. It's a lot. That also is a lot of education in addition to advocacy and new ideas. So, thank you for engaging in that. I want to shift a little bit from charging and ask you a question about batteries and questions that you get from your customers regarding battery life, especially because your vehicles are pre-owned. What kind of questions do you get from customers about battery life, and are there misconceptions that you frequently have to address?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and we do a lot of work around this. Many people come in and they're like, so these batteries last like 3 to 5 years, right? And I'm like, oh, no. Not sure where you heard that, but you're way off. And what we do is we work with them and show them the first-party data from Recurrent Automotive, recurrentauto.com. We actually pay to get battery health reports on all of our vehicles. And Recurrent, what they do is they have a community of tens of thousands of electric vehicles that are sending their charging data to Recurrent's database, showing the mileage, the range, the charging speed, all that stuff. And so they have real data on what's going on with these vehicles. And they can not only tell what the vehicle's range is expected to be today, but also what it can be expected to be in 3 years. And what they're seeing consistently is that EVs lose about 1% of range per year. And the definition of an end-of-life EV battery is at 70%, right? And many of these EVs are even outperforming their EPA range because they're more efficient than the manufacturer even thought they were going to be when they started, right? So a lot of these, based on this trajectory, based on this real hard data on these cars, it looks like these batteries are going to last 30 to 40 years, right? 30 to 40 years based on current rates of deterioration. Now, if you don't believe that, cut it in half, right? And you've still got a car that's going to last a really long time. And so we do that with the reports, and then we do that with the cars. We explain to people what a battery management system is, how that range meter gets that information. And if they really want to geek out, we'll talk a little bit about battery chemistry and LFP versus NCM and, all those things going on. But a bigger question that people have is that the batteries are getting better and better, right? So they're going to be, longer ranges in the next couple of years. So maybe we should just wait. And the truth is, the manufacturers are not focusing on making longer range cars. They're focusing on making more affordable cars because most people don't need more than 250 miles of range most days with the charging infrastructure. So I think the battery the management systems that we have today and the batteries with their chemistry are phenomenal. I think they're going to last a really long time. I think that it's ready for adoption. Absolutely.
That's really great. It's definitely a question that comes up a lot on our side as well. Um, Curious about how you've seen the benefits of the federal EV tax credits, and particularly, I know there's a used EV tax credit that's available to folks. Is that impactful to their buying decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Inflation Reduction Act created a tax credit of 30% of the purchase price up to $4,000 for EVs under $25,000. And that has been a huge boon for people who couldn't otherwise afford to get into an EV. Right, it makes a Chevy Bolt, 3-4 year old Chevy Bolt that's around $20,000, be only $16,000. That acts as people's down payment, right? So you get 20% down right there. So it makes it easier to finance, even if you don't have any cash. And it just reduces the total cost of ownership. I mean, if you compare like a Volkswagen Golf or a Honda Fit, right? These other hatchbacks that are like the Kia Niro, Hyundai Kona, Chevy Bolt, right? Those cost about $20,000, but you don't get a $4,000 tax credit for a late model, low mileage gas car like you do with a Chevy Bolt. So really that 20% cost reduction, which is what we're seeing right around on average for the cars that are a little bit over the minimum threshold, in addition to the $100 to $200 to $300 a month savings that they're going to save on gas, makes it a huge impact. And so we have a lot of people who come in here who, might be interested in a Tesla Model Y or a Volvo C40, but they're really focused on, it's hard to pass up that $4,000 tax credit, right? So whether they need it, right, because that's the only way that they can afford to get into a car, or whether they don't really need it, they want something more expensive, but it's really hard to pass up that awesome benefit. It's about half of our sales right now are cars 25,000 and under that qualify for the tax credit.
That's really great. I'm curious if there's other either regulations or incentives in New Hampshire or in the region that you've seen impact sales?
Yeah, New Hampshire, we don't have an income tax, we don't have a sales tax, so there's not that much to give back, right? There aren't any incentives. The New Hampshire Electrical Co-op ended their incentive for buying an EV earlier this year. So in New Hampshire, it's kind of live free or die, right? You don't really get anything. But in Massachusetts, there is the More EV tax credit, and it's for used vehicles as well. And their price limit is up to $40,000. And not 25,000, and it's a $3,500 tax credit. Now, you do have sales tax in Mass, so there's a little bit of offsetting factor there. It's going to cost you a little bit more because you got to pay sales tax, but that $3,500 is going to offset that, and you can get that tax credit if you buy out of state. Maine has a tax credit as well. You do have to. There are kind of more strict income limits on that. You have to participate in one of their state-funded programs in order to receive it, and you can't get it if you buy out of state. So that has been one of the challenges. Sometimes people in Maine, they want to buy from Greenwave, but they can't get the incentive, so they have to find something somewhere else. The utilities in Vermont offer a variety of incentives, and there's just kind of, we help educate people around all those, and if they can take advantage of them, we help them with that. There's also there's a charging credit, alternative fuel vehicles station recharging credit, 30% of the purchase price. That is something that we let them know about, but that is something that they do have to talk with their tax professional about, whether they qualify and how much qualifies as part of the purchase. So, the cash on the hood program for the IRS tax credit is the best, but there are some additional incentives that you can file for afterwards, both Massachusetts, Maine, and federally.
Yeah, that's good to know, and maybe something for New Hampshire to strive for there. So I've been to your dealership and I've been on your website, and I know that you have a really impressive variety of models, and you just spoke about how the more affordable ones under 25,000 are the most popular, or it sounds like a majority of your sales. What is there one model you can say overall is the most popular?
I will say we sell more Chevy Bolts than any other car, right? Because for a miles of range per dollar spent, there's not a better value on the market. It's a fabulous car. You get Apple CarPlay. Most of them have heated seats, heated steering wheel, like all kinds of cool features. So those are great. Um, you know, in the over 25K category, the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5 have actually been our most popular cars. A Model Y is up in there a little bit, but the 800 volt architecture with the Ioniq 5 and the EV6 allows them to charge from 20 to 80% in about 18 minutes, which is the fastest on the market. So for those high mileage drivers who do a lot of long trips, that's the car they're looking for. Plus, they look really cool. They've got a lot of space. They've got a lot of pickup. And, with efficient driving, they pick up over 300 miles of range in the summer. So really, really fantastic cars. Super fun to drive. About half of the people come into Greenwave saying, I want a Tesla. The other half say, I want any EV except for a Tesla. I would never buy a Tesla. So that's an interesting kind of dichotomy that we have there. But it is, it's something that we talk through a bit. The Teslas have figured out some EV technology that the other manufacturers are trying to catch up with. And I sometimes have to remind people that if you buy a Tesla from Greenwave, then that man doesn't get any of your money, So it's... it's a more positive experience here than anywhere else. But anything that you're going to see on our website, at this point, we know it's great EV, great performance, great reliability. We've been through a lot of different makes and models, and we really believe in and stand by whether it's the Volvos, the Volkswagens, the Ford Mustang, or Ford Lightning, or the Teslas, or Chevy Bolts. They're all awesome cars. And the problem that a lot of people have when they come to Greenwave is they come here thinking they want one car and leave thinking they want three cars because they're all so awesome.
That's excellent. Making the decision harder, but yet easier at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. Wrong.
That's great. Okay, so let's wrap it with what do you see as trends in this space in terms of how the market's evolving and where you're expecting it to go? Maybe we take a long-term look, like 5 years out. Dare we go 10 years out? What do you see?
Yeah. I think affordability is going to be the key, right? I think that's where it's going. I think that's where all the automakers are seeing success. I think that's where Greenwave is seeing success. I mean, I think at the beginning, Greenwave was focused on getting the most awesome cars in and finding them more affordable. Now we're trying to find as many affordable EVs as possible. And if you look at what Tesla's doing with the Model 2 or Ford's doing with some of their newer platforms, they're all striving for affordability. We can see BYD threatening with that in China, right? The $11,000 Seagull, right? So that's the boogeyman. Everybody's trying to catch up with that. I think there will be longer range vehicle cars, but I think like when Toyota says they'll have a 900-mile range car in 2027 with solid state batteries, I think they're lying because they just haven't built a good EV yet. And so, I think that as the infrastructure gets better, which we will see a nation transformed over the next 2 years as the infrastructure law funds go into effect, range will be less and less of a concern. And so affordability is going to be, affordability and efficiency of these vehicles are going to be really where they go. Interoperability is going to be a key with the different charging standards, whether it's CCS or NACS, and making that all work. 5-10 years from now, Lisa, I think everybody's going to own an EV because anybody who buys one and drives one for a couple weeks realizes it's just a better machine than a gas car. It's just better. And so that adoption is going to pick up. That word is going to get out when people hear from their friends and family that it's just a better car. And then it's just going to be, the market catching up to everybody's pocketbooks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's the future that I can't wait to see, and so appreciate your partnership and experiencing this together, kind of from different sides of the story. But it's so great to see you having success there in Northampton, and wishing you all the best. And thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Thank you, Lisa. We love merchants and what you're doing. Thank you so much for your support and all your partnership. And we wish you guys the best too. And as you grow the fleet side, when they come off lease, they become consumer vehicles that are more affordable. And I think it's all the economy and the world is conspiring to help save this beautiful planet with awesome, affordable cars. So thank you for all you're doing, and I look forward to seeing you soon.